An increasing number of GP doctors in the UK are facing unemployment or underemployment despite the increasing patient demand and also the need for more GPs. Now, this sounds like a paradox, right? What exactly is happening? We need more GPs, there is an increasing patient demand, and yet these GPs are still facing unemployment. That is currently the situation in the NHS. And I'm sure you've probably heard stories of maybe a GP is unable to secure a job as a doctor, as a GP, and then I've had to resort to odd jobs in order to actually cater to their needs. And that is the story we hear all over the place. But the truth is, you actually don't know how bad things are. Like, things are really bad. So I saw a document recently where some GPs, over 1,400 GPs, participated in a survey that was, I think, sometimes in February this year. And then based on that survey, they actually found some data. But much more than the data that was gathered, some persons actually anonymously opened up about the experiences they've been having. And guys, it was a really, like, it was scary. Things I saw there, a lot of these doctors are already experiencing anxiety disorders. A lot of people are struggling financially. I think there was even a case of somebody who committed suicide because she couldn't find jobs. She was struggling financially and it was just overwhelming for her. And there was also the story of a lady who was actually planning to divorce her husband, but has now been forced to become a stay-at-home mom because she doesn't have an employment or the financial means to actually live on her own and cater to her child if she eventually goes ahead to divorce her husband. And that is varying situations, difficult situations that people have found themselves in. So much more than the figures, this is the story of human beings, people actually having these experiences. And that is why I feel it's actually very important to talk about this situation. What exactly is going on? Hello, my name is Blessing and I'm a first year trainee here in the UK. And here on this channel, I talk all about medicine. I share about my journey as a doctor here in the UK. So feel free to actually join the community, become a part of us. We are glad that you are here and we are happy to have you. Okay, so without further ado, let's just get right into the discussion of today. So in this video today, I'm going to be sharing about the current situation of things based on the survey that was carried out. And I am also going to be talking about what exactly is responsible, what are the reasons for this trend. And also we'll be talking about the impact and what could be done in order to change or make this situation better. So to start with, based on the survey that was actually carried out, it was said that about 15% of GPs are unable to find any GP role at all, whether locum, salary, they are unable to get jobs. 15% is quite a huge number. And then 1 in 5 are actively planning to leave the profession due to difficulties with securing roles. This 1 in 5 persons, that's actually huge. And then we have 56% who want to work more hours, but then can't seem to find suitable opportunities. This survey also reported that about 60% of GPs have reported a decline in their pay rate over the past 1 year. So it means that they are earning less than what they used to earn in previous years. And guys, keep in mind that the cost of living, everything is on the rise. And so why should someone's salary be dropping? That means that this person is not going to have enough to be able to get by. Now, the survey also showed that about 47% of GPs are considering alternative careers, and the practices, like the GP practices, have also reported about 16% shortfall in the ideal number of GPs that they should have. Now, these numbers are quite significant. They are not like, we're not talking about 1% here. The least is 15%, and 50% is still a whole lot. That is a whole lot of, doctors who are struggling to get jobs. Now, going over to the reasons for this trend, because this is definitely a negative trend, but what exactly is responsible for this negative trend? So the first one is funding issues. So it was reported that the cost of managing the practice is rising, and despite the increasing cost of running those practices, there has been underfunding. Because of this underfunding, it means that enough resources is not available to those practices to be able to hire enough doctors, because they have to have enough to be able to hire enough doctors to work for them. They have had to cut down on a lot of things, including the number of GPs that they should employ. Now, the second reason is shifting of priorities. So it was found recently that funding that used to be some funding that used to go to the GP has now been diverted into some other program. There's this particular one, they call it the additional roles reimbursement scheme, which focuses on hiring non-GP rather than increasing the GP workforce. So basically, is what this is saying is that funding is now shifting from funding that used to go into GP practices that enables them to be able to employ more GPs into the workforce. A part of it is now being allocated into another scheme that is designed to employ non-GPs to do the work that is meant for GP. I'm sure we've been talking about the fact that a lot of non-doctors are now beginning to play the roles of doctors or take up roles that traditionally used to be for doctors. So I guess maybe this scheme is actually to train and hire those cadres of professionals. The third reason why this is also happening is that some GP trainees, especially those who are like IMG doctors who need sponsorship, they are unable to get jobs that can offer sponsorship. So this is the situation. After a doctor completes their training, which is usually about 3 years, it takes about 5 years for one to be able to earn a settled status, or basically an indefinite leave to remain, which allows them to be able to work in the UK without a sponsorship. Now, so that means that after CCT, a GP will need to get a job that can offer them sponsorship for those remaining 2 years. Now, because these GP practices are struggling in terms of their finances, in terms of their funding, they can't seem to be able to afford sponsorship roles anymore. And so this makes it difficult for those IMG doctors to be able to secure sponsorship roles that can cover their sponsorship until they earn a settled status. So because these GPs actually need like a sponsorship role, they won't be able to work if there is no one willing to sponsor them. So, and if the GPs cannot offer this sponsorship, it means that they won't have the opportunity, or they wouldn't have met the requirement or the criteria to work as GPs or in that capacity. So this is making it more difficult, especially for the IMG doctors. Now, the other thing is the expansion of the GP role. So GPs, the training opportunity for GPs have increased, but there is no corresponding increase in the number of GP jobs. So more like we increase the training slot, but then when these guys eventually train, there is nothing that's been put in place to actually accommodate this increased number of GPs that have been trained. Now, what is the consequences of all of this? Number one, it's going to impact on patient care, and we already know that being able to get a GP appointment is like winning a lottery, like right now. So people are struggling, a lot of persons are struggling to actually get GP appointments, and some have resorted to having to go to the ED. And that is why the ED in a lot of hospitals is a mess, because cases that should have been sorted in the GP that didn't have to show up at the ED are now having to show up at the ED because they can't seem to get appointments with their GPs. Now, there is increased workload on the available numbers of professionals. For example, if a practice is supposed to have maybe about 10 GPs, and due to all of this issue, they can only afford to have 6 GPs, then it means that indirectly, those 6 GPs might end up having to do the job of 10 GPs. And that is going to lead to increased workload for the available doctors, and which eventually will lead to poor work-life balance, burnout, and all of that. And that is something that should not even happen. Stress is not something you want to, mental stress is not something you want to add to the physical stress of being a doctor. Now, the other thing is, just like I always say, when a person leaves the role, it is not just that person that is leaving. His expertise, the skills that he has acquired during the course of his training, all of that is going to live with him. And he might take more resources and even some more time to be able to train a hand that is capable enough to fill in that role. So when doctors are leaving the system, or when doctors are unable to secure a job or have to resort to odd jobs, menial jobs, it means that years of training, expertise, all of that is being lost. And even recently, a lot of doctors are now taking the alternative of going to practice in some other countries as GPs. And so that basically leads to a lot of people, a lot of doctors who should be providing services in the UK, because the UK has invested in their training, have now been left with the option of having to leave the UK in order to go render those same services in some other countries that are willing to give them employment and help and able to offer them progression in terms of their career. So now what can really be done about this? Yes, a lot of issues have been outlined here, but one thing that stands out is the fact that there's a need to actually expand. Expansion is very important in order to be able to accommodate the increasing number of doctors who will become GPs after training. There's also a need to increase funding, because for these GPs to be able to, for these practices to be, the GP practice to be able to run effectively, they need adequate funding. So, but this also is something that the government will have to be the ones to decide on what to do. But then this is an issue that concerns everyone, because everyone is feeling the heat. You know, it's difficult when you have a complaint. You just need a GP appointment and you have to wait for weeks in order to be able to secure one. It can be very frustrating, really. And so, what you guys think about this discussion? Do you what are your opinions? Please feel free to actually share your thoughts in the comment section. I want to know what you think. And don't forget to like, to comment, and also subscribe to this channel. Until I see you, take care.